But within Greek mythology, you had Pluto reigning, which later turned to Satan.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You had these things that Jake was really adding on, you know, to the scriptures, mixing in with the Greeks. And we see the same problem going on today.
Yep, and before the Greeks came, the Canaanites, these different, that's where all of the Greeks and these different heathen got their gods. Going back to Babylon, all of these various different gods that rule these different regions, the god of the water, the god of this, the god of that.
Right.
All of that stuff has been around, and Jake has always been interested in it. A lot of these superheroes,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's all Greek mythology, man.
Right, right.
It's a little more. It says in biblical Greek it is associated with Orcus. Now here's an important piece. The infernal regions. Keep this in mind. Keep the infernal regions in mind.
Yep.
A dark and dismal place in the very depths of the earth. Keep that in mind as well too.
You said that definition was Hades, right?
Correct. Yep.
All right. This is the Zondorian Compact Bible Dictionary. The word Hades. It says, because the Elder Michael Allah said this too. It says Hades. It says the place or state of the dead, the equivalent of the Hebrew Sheol. How they say it's like. It says which is variously rendered grave, hell, or pit. It says the New Testament word generally translated hell does not necessarily imply a place of torment.
See, sorry, like when Yahusha said Capernaum was gonna go there.
Yeah.
The same y'all gonna burn forever. No, y'all gonna catch up because what's coming.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? 70 AD and everything back there,
Yeah.
being destroyed. So it's a straight of like the brother bringing out of being uncomfortable or being destroyed or hit. It's not. It wasn't something that's you would burn forever. Again, that's going back to these heathen customs.
Yep.
I got a precept if I may. Matthew 5. I don't know when you wanted that one brought out.
Go ahead. You can bring it out now. You can bring it out. Yeah.
This is. Was you done with your points, Quan?
No, go ahead, buddy.
Okay. This is Matthew 5:21, and it says, "Ye have heard." So like, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not kill, and whosoever thou shalt kill, thou shalt be in danger of judgment. Right. So it's going into the judgment here, which the judgment that's prophesied in the Bible is the thermonuclear destruction, and also other various parts of the earth being burned with fire. The earth. Okay. That's why the priest Benaiah said earlier, quoting Ecclesiastes 4:1, I saw a place under the sun. I'm sorry, Ecclesiastes, was that 3?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, 3, where, judgment was there. But this is Matthew 5:22. And it says, But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And that's the judgment that's getting ready to come. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Rakah, which Rakah pretty much means like you a fool or insignificant, It says, thou shalt be in danger. And that's pretty much going into a camp. Like the unit of brothers like us right now, you ain't going to talk down on your brother. You know what I'm saying? It says, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Now, this is in the New Testament. But when you go into this word hell here, it's going into the word Gehenna. All right? Which is tied with the valley of Hinnom, which is Hebrew. Okay? And when you go into this word hell in this verse, which again is Gehenna, Salakia, one sec. There we go. Gehenna. When you break it down, it says hell is a place of future punishment called Gehenna or Gehenna fire. This was originally the valley of Hinnom.
And they weren't too far from it at that time.
Ooh. Yeah.
So basically, the Jews had slain.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
They had slain, just like we have slain today. The Jews had slain, and they likened the coming judgment to Gehenna fire.
Right.
And when you go into Gehenna, all right, it goes into this place where they burn trash. A lot of wicked Jake and heathen will go there to burn bodies for their sacrifices. That's what that, and they're likening the judgment to come to Gehenna.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It said this was originally the valley of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the cities were cast out and burned. A fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction.
There it is.
All right, so it breaks it down right there when you look at it. It tells you it's tied to the future destruction. Yahushua was using this as an example. When Jake was being wicked, they was burning their kids there. Like the elder said, burning different sacrifices tied to other gods. You know, so the Lord is going to burn them and judge them according to their works and what they've done.
It into my heart. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. For they shall for they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place.
Mm-hmm. Can you read verse 33 as well?
So he's reading the history of that region that Yahweh Shah is referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Of how Jake was doing wickedness over there, burning the dead bodies.
Right.
Yahweh Shah is using what happened in this region as a means to symbolize the destruction coming.
Mm-hmm.
But he says it's translated as you're in danger of hellfire.
Right.
But if you don't have the proper teacher, you just go, oh, hell. Well, we go into it to tell you, no, this is what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You got it, bro.
And the carcasses of this people shall be meat for the fowls of the heaven, and for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's why, and this is being tied into the judgment that's to come. Because even at that time, like, you know, you had trash, you know, you would have dead animals and things like that. You would have different kind of birds that would be hovering over that region because that was a region of death.
Right.
Right? But when you tie up verse 33 here, I'm going to read this real quick, this backdoor. Revelation chapter 19, verse 17 and 18. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great power, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, in the flesh of captains, in the flesh of mighty men, in the flesh of horses, and of all them that sit on them, in the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. So this is a future judgment of what's to come. That's why they use the word hell fire or Gehenna fire. Is what that's what they would really call it. Gehenna fire. You see, because they was likening the judgment to what was actually going on in that region of the earth. Right.
Yep.
You see, not region of the earth, but just in that region. You know, they wasn't far away. They wasn't too far away from it, man. You know, they were still using that. They were still using that that region during the time of Yahushua's time. They knew what they knew what that region was there for.
Because the masses are going to die an undignified death versus the elect are going to be glorified. You know what I'm saying? You have a sea of dead bodies, birds eating that flesh. Nobody's going to frame me. Nobody's going to be able to, you know.
Yeah, swat them away or
swat 'em
something.
away,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody's going to be rotten, things of that nature. You know, until, you know, the elect come back and we get these heathens, you know, Edomites to make them clean it up. But that's a undignified death. And really, these souls were made to live, not to be in the grave. So to be in the grave, you know what I'm saying? It happens to everyone, but it's undignified. You're not supposed. We're supposed to be living. That's why when Howard Shaw returns, he's gonna swallow up death.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is 2 Peter 3 and 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works therein shall be burned up. And we quoted earlier, the place of judgment is on earth, under the sun. So the fire is going to come to the earth. The fire that's prophesied to come is going to come on earth. And that's and we'll get it later. That's the judgment, all right, fully. When you get into the lake of fire, that's going to be Babylon the Great.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, not the Vatican, not some squiggly river, you know, little plot of land. No, the Lord's determination is to engulf the whole Babylon the Great. The same thing he did in Sodom and Gomorrah, he plans on doing to a whole country.
Right.
Man.
That's what the scriptures talks about. We'll get it though.
I got one back up. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 31 through 33. For through the voice of the Lord Yahweh shall the Assyrian be beaten down, which smote with the rod. And in every place where the grounded staff shall pass, which Yahweh shall lay upon him, it shall be with tabrets and harps. And in battles of shaking will he fight with it. For Tophet is ordained of old. Yea, for the king it is prepared. He hath made it deep and large. The pile thereof is fire and much wood. The breath of Yahweh, like a stream of brimstone, doth kindle it. And this is a future prophecy of America being destroyed, man. You see, this says because that he's that Assyrian. You see, but leave it up to these guys. It's talking about, that's talking about Sennacherib, you know, like, no, this is talking about Esau today.
Right. The modern day
He's the
Assyrian.
modern day Assyrian, man. And America is going to be the new Tophet.
Right.
That's what that is. You see?
Yeah, and if I may, according to these guys and doctrine, the new doctrine they're creating, you know, with that part of Megiddo going all the way down to Edom being the danger zone, as they say, then that means that you have to change your whole stance on Mystery Babylon.
Right.
Because Mystery Babylon is designed to be burned forever. But if you're saying the lake of burning fire, which is a judgment that was promised to Mystery Babylon, all right, you're saying that that's over there, then what you're saying ultimately is Babylon is ultimately over there in the Holy Land and not the Americas.
Right. Right. And even that concept of eternal, Babylon burning forever, the word is ultimately in memory and legacy. All right. And it also means, when we'll get into it, a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
The word forever can mean a period of time. So Babylon, although the fire will eventually quench, it may be smoky over it, but it's not going to burn forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Eternal fire doesn't mean, all right, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever when you get into the meaning of that word. In the context of what the scriptures say. We have to tie the whole book.
Right.
You can't go into the Old Testament and the Jews were talking about this God of another world where judgment. No. We'll even get that scripture with a worm rots not.
Oh,
We'll get that. But we don't got to get it now, but we'll get it. These are things that are you have to tap into the scriptures. You got to tap into the spirit, man. Because again, it says here in Matthew 23 and 33, ye serpents. This is Yahushua speaking to the scribes and Pharisees. Ye serpents, you generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? And what is that word? Gehenna. It's speaking of a future judgment, because if you're wicked, if the Lord intended for you to be judged in that lake, you're going to be in that lake.
Yep.
There's no way around it. You tied to that judgment. It's set. It's from the beginning.
Yep.
The Lord ordained you to go through this judgment, this damnation. There's no way to escape it if that's your fate.
Made and taken to be destroyed.
You can't take away the fact that the Lord made us to be Israelites.
Right.
We His people. You can't say I'm not an Israelite. It don't matter. You still got. You gonna go through it regardless if you don't believe it or not.
Yep.
You see.
Anybody else have anything else on that? Another point. Okay, so this is another one, right? Now this is the other Greek word for hell. I'm reading 2 Peter 2 and 4. It says, "For if the Most High spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment." Now the angels that were spared not, right? It's talking about us. You know, this hell that we're in is ultimately this flesh. We are those angels in these chains of darkness, right? When you get this word hell here, all right, here it is right here. So this word hell is tareo, right? Taruo, excuse me. It says the name of the subterranean region, doleful and dark, regarded by the ancient Greeks as the abode of the wicked dead, where they suffer punishment for their evil deeds. It answers to Gehenna of the Jews. So it's literally telling you what it is. It's like letting you know what our people, our heritage, what it is, what that means. It answers to Gehenna of the Jews. You see, but when you got the Bible, you had the scrolls that were written in Hebrew that was translated to the Septuagint, which is means 7. That was the Greek Old Testament, for lack of better words, right?
Right.
That was translated to the Latin Vulgate, which the Latin Vulgate was translated into what we have as the quote-unquote modern English today. So if you think about the game telephone, for lack of better words, or even another example like virgin, the word virgin in English, you have 2 to 3 different words in the Hebrew for one English word. You know, so it's the same concept with hell, but they'll use this one English word and make a whole doctrine around it.
That's right. That's right. Just to add really quick, you can blame those different councils that was taking place during the Dark Ages for that.
Right.
You know, like the Council of Nicaea, which there was a bunch of them, but the most popular one was the Council of Nicaea, where Constantine, who was a Jake, who was also pagan, infused both Greek mythology and other mythologies and tied it with, our culture. You know what I'm saying? To pretty much stop uproars and get people to pretty much be on one accord, for lack of better words. Because if you read that right there with the brother just, that Tartarus in the book of St. Peter, all right, you would think that, hell is like Greek mythology. Because you have the Tartarus pit, which is where the Titans fell after they lost to the gods.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that's tied to fallen angels if you don't have a proper understanding of it. You would think it's tied to fallen angels, I'd rather say. But again, it's Greek mythology.
Yep. Like Kronos, he has this big ass chain on him. He over here holding up this. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. That ties back into these Greek, these Greek ancient Sumerian gods that that they worship. Because these so-called gods are just recycled from different empires.
That's all.
Like Elder, you made a beautiful point. Like these different councils, is pretty much the commentaries.
Right. Watch this. This is off of ChatGPT. It said neighboring cultures like the Canaanites and Mesopotamians, Babel, had gods of the underworld. Okay. It says, but the Israelites rejected these deities and practices as adulterous. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dang. So our people knew.
Yeah.
They knew. Like there wasn't no place underground where you die, you gonna burn forever. You see that came up. That's a heathenistic custom, man. What Shar mentioned, the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Trent. You had all these various different councils where it was pretty much mixing and mingling all kinds of idolatry into the scriptures. You see, that's all that was, man. So these different commentators, for the most part, when they go into the spiritual aspects of the breakdown, they don't got it. And you got Jake that's taking hold of these doctrines and trying to mingle it into the truth, man. And there's no lie of the truth at the end of the day. Let's see. That was no. Go ahead if you got something. I was gonna get Jude 1 and I was gonna get Jude 1, 6, and 7. If anybody else didn't have anything.
I got a quick one while they're looking it up.
Okay.
Just going into Yahweh because I forgot which one of y'all brought up the point. Going into how the Lord, it was you, Michael, how the Lord deals with the living. If you look at hell to burn forever, that's not how the Heavenly Father rolls, because death is going to be swallowed up in victory. And even the Edomites are going to be burned forever, and they're going to be brought back as the other nations, pretty much.
Well, we don't know that. We don't.
Salaki,
we don't know that.
Heard. Okay, Salaki, I've heard. Okay. Well, this is Mark 12 and 27.
We'll see.
Because
we know spirits don't die.
Yeah.
It would make sense.
So I heard that years ago, so Salaki, I ain't heard it in a while.
But we don't know.
No doubt. It's the water. Yeah. Well, this is Mark 12 and 27, just a quick sentence. And this here is going into, this when you read this Matthew 12, it's another scenario with the wording of it. It's tied to what we're talking about. All right, Matthew 12 and 27 says, he is not a God of the dead, but a God of the living. And ye therefore do greatly err, like these niggas, they greatly err. Because when you look at hell and hell doctrine, that's a doctrine of death right there. You burning forever, nothing just burning. The Lord don't deal like that. He's just. So he's a God of the living. I just wanted to, highlight that point. Because when you look at hell as they break it down and follow that doctrine, then that must mean that he's partially a God of the dead. Especially when you look at these other cultures and how they worship the dead and had gods of the dead and such. The Lord is saying, I'm not about that, but I'm about life. While these other gods are about death. And Jacob are following these other gods unknowingly. Right.
They just love death.
They love death.
They respect that more than my Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's crazy, man. It's like we already made it earlier. We made the point earlier, but it's like they really want the heathen to have a glimpse of life more than Jake. Here it is, 2/3 is gonna be burning forever in a lake of in this stream of fire. You just gonna have Jake in there forever. But the scriptures tell you that all Israel shall be saved though.
Man, come on, bro.
All my people shall be righteous. That's what's written.
Exactly.
Right. But the 2/3 are going to be a part of a judgment, and that will never be forgotten.
Yeah.
In the kingdom, we know they're going to be blessed, but they always going to be tied to that legacy.
Yes, sir.
There's going to be a distinction of the elect. Because all Israel is the elect, but there's going to be order, the first fruits. Okay, which ultimately that's where everything is going to be established. Starting with the 144, the large multitude, the 12 at the head of that. Yahushua, the head of that.
Mm.
That's going to be the first fruits. Okay, they're always the second death have no power over them.
Right.
See, but there are particular Israelites who were written to be a part of the second death judgment. They're gonna suffer, and that will always be. And that's another aspect of eternal that we'll get. You had Jude, right?
Yeah.
Or did you have some?
I had something real quick
Yep,
for
yep.
you real fast.
Yep.
This is Daniel 12:2, just to back up your point. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
Everlasting.
Because it's going to be shameful for them to reflect on how they was living here and how they died here, man. Massive death, massive pestilence.
Came up against the leadership.
Right, came up against us, you know what I'm saying, demonizing us, you know what I'm saying, and to be able to look back at all what happened to them, their dead bodies, how it was just a droves of people dead, and to be a part of that, you can be disgusted at yourself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn. You know, weeping, you know,
But they're still gonna be blessed.
they're still gonna be right in the grand scheme of things, but that everlasting contempt gonna be for real.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
It's
Damn.
always gonna be known that you're not one of them that were a part of that first dominion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just how the Lord set it up from the beginning. He chose his elect from amongst the elect from the very beginning. And they have preeminence.
Yep.
There's going to be order in the kingdom of heaven, even amongst Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Not every Israelite is going to own regions of the earth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But they're going to live under the blessing of the one who does.
Yep.
They could be in a suburb somewhere, nice
Chilling.
little crib. You know, 0 point energy ain't
10
hurt
wives,
nobody. Yeah, just out the way.
chilling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a regular average Israelite. You know, you good. You got a little land, you know what I'm saying?
Right. It said in the scriptures that living just to 200, you can be. I mean, 100, you can be seen as a babe.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100, dying at 100, at the age of 100, gonna be something that's looked down upon.
Forgotten,
Right.
yeah.
Like, you don't need to make to 100.
You just getting started.
Yeah, you just
At 100.
Yeah, at
In the
100.
kingdom, you know what I'm saying?
I just found out like with sassy out.
Yeah. You had Jude?
Yep, I do. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna read it for you.
Okay, you might start at verse 5.
Mm-hmm. Jude 1 and 5. I would therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterwards destroyed them that believed not.
Going into the first deliverance out of the exodus out of Egypt, you were in the wilderness, and Jacob was murmuring and tripping in the wilderness. So that old generation the Lord had to kill them off. You know, except for Joshua and Caleb, and that new generation got placed into the promised land. You got it.
And the angels which kept not their first estate,
Mm-hmm.
but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day.
And those angels that left their first estate are talking about the elect. You know, the elect that were with Yahushua creating in the beginning, Genesis 1:1, right? We came in this flesh, and we're in these everlasting chains of darkness until what? Until the judgment comes. Because ultimately, the elect, when the judgment comes, they're going to be broken from these chains of darkness, and our bodies will be changed. Lord willing, we have that number. You see, you got it.
Even as Sodom and Gomorrah,
Mm-hmm.
in these cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh,
Mm-hmm.
and are set forth like for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
Boom. So now we got it's Sodom and Gomorrah burning as we look, literally right now. No.
Got to get that precept in Wisdom of Solomon.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's see.
Get it in the GNT though.
Okay.
Of the what is it, 4? Unbelieving soul. Pillar of fire. Is it in that same chapter? Yes. The memory of the Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, Wisdom of Solomon. So, I think it's Wisdom of Solomon 10. Is it Pillar of Salt? Is a monument of an unbelieving soul? Yep. Wisdom of Solomon 10 and 7. But you, it's GNT, yeah.
10 7. It's Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 and verse.
You probably start verse 6.
All right, in verse 6. It says, wisdom in the GNT. Wisdom rescued a righteous man while ungodly people were dying. He escaped the flames that destroyed the 5 cities. It says you can still see the evidence of their wickedness. The land there is barren and smoking. The plants bear fruit that never ripen, and a pillar of salt stands as a monument to one who did not believe. The people of those cities ignored wisdom and could not tell right from wrong. Not only that, but the remains of their city still remind us of the foolish way they lived.
See?
Yeah.
It reminds you. And in that sense, it's eternal.
Yep.
It's eternal. It can go into a few things, but it reminds you. So Sodom and Gomorrah is not literally burning, but in memorial, in memory, yes, it is. It's burning unto this day. And that word eternal, you got it.
Yeah, I was gonna get in Greek for you real quick here. That word is aionios. It says without beginning and end. That which always has been and always will be.
And so eternal in a sense can be the Lord's determination. It's forever.
Yeah. It happened.
It happened.